everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to be going through a quick spirometry training on the Easy on PC device today, and specifically how to perform an FVC or a forced vital capacity with the Easy on PC device. My name is Jamie Burgess. I'm an RT with NDD, and I just wanted to take a special minute. If we have RTs on the call, happy Respiratory Care Week 2020. We are so excited to partner with so many of you. We have another webinar coming up on Thursday where we're really talking and focusing in on our RTs who use our PFT devices. And just know that we are so proud of all of our respiratory therapists. You guys are the frontlines workers right now, especially in this COVID pandemic. We just appreciate you guys and we love our RTs. So happy Respiratory Care Week. And I'm excited to walk through the Easy on PC this morning. All right, so during this training, we're going to review how to perform an FVC test on the Easy on PC device. We're going to go over proper technique, we're going to go over session quality, and then we're going to wrap up with some common error messages that you might see. All right, so first and foremost, what is spirometry? Spirometry measures how much air you can breathe in and out of your lungs, as well as how easily and how fast you can blow that air out of your lungs. So we're looking at volume and flow with these measurements. The forced vital capacity test that we're going to be reviewing today. This is one of the spirometry tests that's used to measure the amount of air someone can forcefully expel out of their lungs after taking the biggest breath possible. This value is in liters of air in the FVC, and this is a very, very important measurement and indicator of lung health. So what are some other important parameters that you can get from this FVC test? So the first one is the FEV1, which this is how much air, what volume of air can be forcefully exhaled in the first second. The FVC, that's going to be the total volume of forcefully exhaled air after that maximum inspiration, after that biggest deep breath in. And then we have the FEV1 FVC ratio. And this is looking at those two previous parameters and comparing them so that we have a percentage of your total lung capacity, or excuse me, of your lung capacity, and then what you're able to exhale in that first second. Spirometry reference values. How do we know what's normal? How do we know what is not? All of our predicted values, they're obtained from large studies of healthy people. These predicted value sets depends on your patient's height, so we always want to make sure that we measure that accurately, their age, their biological gender, and then their race or ethnicity. Weight is not a factor in our predicted values, but a lot of providers like to have that information entered in their spirometry reports to calculate a BMI, just because extremes in weight sometimes can show up as a reduced lung function on these tests. So repeatability for criteria for spirometry. How do we know that we are getting the most accurate results on our patients? So we do this by repeating the test multiple times, adding additional trials to make sure that the first trial looks very, very similar to the last trial so that we know that we can put faith in this information that has been given to us. So after a minimum of 3 acceptable FVC trials, we want those 2 largest FVCs and FEV1s to be within a really tight parameter, 0.15 liters of one another. If criteria has not been met, we want to keep continuing to test our patients, keep adding trials until either both of those criteria have been met with additional maneuvers, the patient cannot or should not continue safely, or a total of 8 maneuvers have been performed. So instructing a patient on the FVC test. So for an FVC test, a patient, the ATS says they may sit or they may stand up. If you have a patient that is more comfortable standing, just make sure you have a nice solid chair that does not roll behind them, just for them to be able to rest during trials. We want to instruct the patients to lift their chin off of their chest, extending their neck slightly. We don't want them crunching down and cutting off any of that airflow coming out of their lungs. Another thing to take note of here is how your patient is dressed, what they're wearing. If there's anything restricting, tight shirt, shirts, neckties, belts, girdles, bras, anything that could prohibit them from taking a big deep breath in and blowing out as hard as fast as they can. We just want to make sure that they're comfortable and can do this test to the best of their ability. From this position of sitting or standing with your neck extended, chin elevated, this will allow the patient to have the most forceful exhalation possible. At NDD, we recommend that nose clips are placed on every patient prior to test, again, just so that we're capturing every last bit of air coming out of their lungs through the device. The next step is going to be taking the mouthpiece, placing it between the teeth. So teeth on top, tongue on bottom, making sure we're not blocking that mouthpiece with our tongue at all and making a good tight seal. We're going to instruct the patient to take the biggest, deepest breath possible, filling their lungs with as much air as they possibly can. And then third, without hesitating, blasting it hard and fast into the spirometer. I always kind of use the analogy of biggest birthday cake with the most candles, stickiest spider web, whatever you can explain to them just so they understand how important it is to have that big blast of air. We're going to encourage the patient to keep going, keep blasting until they have completely run out of air. They've had a complete exhalation. They are to a point of plateau. All right, so how do we obtain good quality spirometry tests? We want to always make sure that we as the providers are demonstrating the maneuver. A lot of times when I train offices, I'll recommend that they have their own spirette that they can keep in their pocket so that they can show the patient how to make a good tight seal on the mouthpiece and how to do the whole maneuver start to finish. We want to always use body language. I'm kind of a handsy type of person. I move my hands a lot. I really get into this. I move my body when they're supposed to be breathing in and breathing out. The use of body language is so important for these patients to understand what is expected of them to have a good spirometry test. We want to make sure that we're loudly emphasizing for them to blast out that air. We want to encouraging them to keep going, keep blowing, you're almost there. And then when they're doing the maneuvers, we want to watch the patients carefully to make sure that if there is anything on the patient's side that is going wrong during the test, so that we can catch it and quickly correct it, such as an example that from the last slide, making sure that they're keeping their chin up and when they're not blasting out, they're not crumpling up in a little ball. Those are things that we can just visually observe from the patient while they're doing a test. So when you're ready to test, this is what the patient entry screen looks like for the Easy on PC. As you can see, there are several different parameters. There's tabs across the top. The things that absolutely have to be filled in are the items that are starred: the patient ID, the biological gender, their ethnicity, their birth date, and then their height in inches. The smoking history, under the history tab, it is talking about referred physician, ordering physician, environment, that would be, an elevation level, or any other general comments. With you and your provider, you can work out how much or how little of this you want to fill out. Everything that's filled out under this patient entry screen will show up on the patient report. So either hit the highlights with the starred values that we need for our predicted values, or you can fill this out completely. It's completely up to your facility. When all desired fields are entered, you're going to click on OK to start the test. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click over to the PC software so you guys can watch along with the software while I'm testing myself. So I am going to switch over. Now you guys should be viewing the Connect software, Easy One Connect software. I am going to have my disposables. I'm going to have my Spirette mouthpiece. I'm going to have my nose clips. And then I have my Easy on PC spirometer. So the Spirette inserts into the spirometer, lining up the arrows. You're going to have your patient sitting.
Jamie, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just heard a comment that they can't hear you. So I can hear you. Could someone else maybe write into the chat or the question to let us know if you can or can't hear us?
Yeah, absolutely. Over in your dashboard, there should be a little arrow, a little caret for audio. And if you expand that open, you can just triple check your audio settings to make sure that those are coming through an outlet that's accessible to you.
Okay, I just saw that people can hear now. So, okay, good.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank
awesome. Thank you, Joy. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and move into a test. Again, you're going to have the patient comfortably sitting or standing. The Spirat mouthpiece is inserted into the Easy on PC handle, and I have my nose clips ready to go. So I already have myself entered as a patient, and you can see that I have selected myself as a patient because my name and patient ID are down in this lower left-hand corner of the screen. I'm going to go ahead and select that middle tile, which is the test tile, and it's going to bring me into our test menu. I'm going to be doing an FVC, which is an exhalation only maneuver for you guys today, just like we explained earlier. The first thing in all of these tests that the device is going to ask you to do is it's going to ask you to block the Spirat mouthpiece so that it can do a very quick check. It's checking the room temperature, the humidity, the barometric pressure, just to make sure that our ultrasound sensor is ready to go for our test. You can either leave the plastic on the front part of your mouthpiece, you can take a gloved hand and block the back, but the goal during that is just that no air is going through the mouthpiece during that check. I'm going to go ahead and click on the test. Get it loaded up here. Here's that first screen telling me to block that Spirat until we are prompted to blast out. I have my Spirat blocked, and I'm going to click OK. The coaching bar is going to turn blue and tell us to start the test. I have the cake selected as my incentive, but you can select from the drop-down menu over there on the left-hand side. I'm going to make a good tight seal, teeth on top, tongue on bottom. Take a big deep breath in, and I'm going to blast it out as hard and as fast as I can. Here we go. So as you could see, once I reached that point of plateau where no air was coming out of my mouth at all into the mouthpiece, the software automatically ended that trial for me. So if I were coaching, I would be encouraging the patient to keep blowing, keep blowing, keep blowing. You know they're almost there when you start to see that curve level out. Here on the test results page, there is a whole lot of information. So I just want to kind of hit the highlights of what is on this screen. Down in the lower left-hand corner is going to be where all of your real-time data accumulates. You can see your predicted values, the lower limits of normal, the percent predicted that the patient actually did, and then their raw data under trial. Each of our subsequent trials are going to populate in that same area so that you can watch them as we go along. In the middle of the screen, there's going to be a session quality grade. That takes into account a couple of different things, and we're going to talk about that a little bit after this demonstration, but we always want to end a trial with an A or a B. Just keep in mind, this D grade that we have right now is only because we've done one trial. That grade will continue to increase as our trials build. It's the same with the system interpretation. The interpretation will begin to build as we continue to test. And then on the far right-hand side, there is an area where you can leave comments as a practitioner during the test. So I go ahead and add a second trial. The add trial button is right on top over on the left-hand side. I'm going to wait for that coaching bar to turn blue. Teeth on top, tongue on bottom. Big deep breath in and blow it out as hard and as fast as I can. Awesome. So you can see down in the lower left-hand corner, now I have a second trial that has populated. The coaching bar is telling me good effort, do next. Here in a moment, we're going to go over some of the common error messages when your coaching bar doesn't say good effort, do next. Some of those common error messages that we hear customers getting frequently. As you can see on the session quality, my grade has moved up from a D to a C. There's a little bit of preliminary interpretation of normal spirometry coming in, but we know we need to get 3 good and reproducible and acceptable trials, so I'm going to do one more. All right, coaching bar is blue, ready to start the test. Awesome. So you can see all 3 of my trials down on the lower left-hand side. The coaching bar is telling me that the session is complete. Reproducibility and acceptability criteria has both been met. My session quality is an A. It's reading this right now as normal spirometry, and we are ready to go out into our report. I'm just going to very, very quickly click on the top tile on the lower right-hand side, which is my report, and just point out a couple of quick things in the software, and then we'll go back to the presentation. All right, so right now I just have a standard report selected, which you can get some layout selections over in the upper left-hand corner. There's a few different built-in reports that you guys can work through, see what your providers prefer is in terms of how things are laid out, but there are several options that are built in here. You can see that everything is built right here on the report. If you're directly hooked to a printer, you can hit the print button up in the upper right-hand corner, or you can use the print menu to tell the software that you want to send it as a PDF file or in several other formats, whatever fits your facility's needs the best. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hop back over to my presentation. All right, and we will keep moving. So I went over this just a little bit. When we complete the test, you know, we always want to make sure that the software is telling us that the session is complete, just meaning that all of that criteria has been met. This is a good test. This is an accurate test. When the patient has met that repeatability and acceptability criteria, you'll get that message in the coaching bar that says session complete, and you want that session quality grade to be an A or a B. All right, here's a little bit more of a breakdown of where those session quality grades come from. I will not read this entire paragraph to you, but that A or B just means that we have 3 or more acceptable tests, with the best 2 being within a very tight margin, either 100 or 150 mLs of one another for an A or B. Spirometry test session quality grades can indicate the degree of confidence that you and your providers can have in these test results. These grades are displayed and printed on our Easy on PC spirometry reports. So it's something you can see right there underneath the test. So common error messages. We tried to go through and pick out what was most common, what we hear from our customers the most. So these are the 4 most common errors that can pop up in that coaching bar between trials. The first one, blow out longer. So your patient may have not exhaled completely to their point of plateau. The device still sensed that maybe there was some air coming out of their mouth. An abrupt end of test detected. Patient will not have exhaled completely during this. We see this one a lot if a patient coughs in the middle of a maneuver. They cough, they take the device out of their mouth, and obviously that test was not carried out to completion. So you're going to get that abrupt end of test detected message. Another, this is a very, very common one, we hear this one a lot, is that patient hesitation is detected. That essentially means that the FEV1, which was the amount of air in the first second, has been missed. So your patient takes their big deep breath in and they kind of stall before they blast out. We've missed that first second of exhalation. So that very important FEV1 parameter is not going to be accurate when that patient hesitates between their big breath in and their blast out. Blow out faster is the last one. That just means the peak flow is delayed. The fastest point in that blast out where they're blowing out their air, if they take a big deep breath in and then just kind of squeak along, you're not going to get that peak flow measurement because we want it to be a big blast. Remember, most birthday candles, sticky as spider web, hard and fast blast out of air so that we can get all of our parameters covered. All right, that is essentially the end of the presentation. We're going to open up. I know that there has probably been some questions asked over on the side. Joy is going to pop on and read some of those questions for us. And if you have questions that you haven't entered, over on that same dashboard that we were looking at the audio setting earlier, you'll see another tab that says questions. And feel free to type any questions in there that you might have come up during the presentation. We'll try to get them taken care of. If it's something I can't take care of on the call, I will absolutely follow up with you after. Joy, what do we have on there?
So our first question is from Rosa, and she asks, when you're blocking the mouthpiece before you're using it, is that like calibrating the machine?
So our devices have an ultrasound, a point-to-point ultrasound sensor. That's how it reads. That's how it reads the flow measurements. These devices actually come calibrated from the factory. You cannot physically calibrate the device. If you're working in research occupational health, you absolutely can check calibration with a 3-liter syringe on this device. But essentially, when we block the mouthpiece, it's not really a calibration. Essentially, it's just taking in all the environmental factors and preparing the sensor for the test. So it is a checkpoint, but not technically a calibration. Hopefully that was clear as mud.
And the next question is from Savine. What configuration setting do you use to be able to do the inhalation with the mouthpiece already in the mouth? Wouldn't it stop the test immediately when inhaling instead of exhaling?
No. So on the FVC, because of how this measurement is taken, it's measured when air blasts through that mouthpiece. So on our device, you can have the patient take their big deep breath in, then seal, and then blow. But we've just found there's a lot less error on the patient side when they perform the entire maneuver in their mouth. So that first deep breath in, it's not going the correct direction to end the test. So the test isn't going to start until that blast out goes through the ultrasound sensor. So that's an excellent question. It will not end the test. The test is not even going to start until it actually sees the air going this way through the device. But that is an excellent question. If you've used other devices that have you breathe in, seal, and then blow, our device absolutely can function in that way. I just prefer teaching the entire maneuver on the mouthpiece just because there's a lot less patient error that way.
Great. And then the last question I have right now is, will your PowerPoint be shared with us?
Oh, I can definitely share it with you guys. What I will probably do is I'll convert it into a PDF document, and then I will just attach it to that post-webinar email that will come with this recording. It will come with the recording included, but I can attach this presentation as a PDF document if that would be helpful. I can definitely do that.
I'm just scrolling through to make sure I didn't miss anything here, and I'll just go. No questions about audio that was responsive. Nope, I think that's all we have.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming to this live Easy on PC training. We want to be able to be this continuing resource for you guys so that you are getting the most out of your equipment. You can visit our website at nddmed.com at any time for information, my contact information as well. Reach out to me if you have any more specific questions, things that might come up after training or as you're starting to open back up post-COVID. If you've had staff turnover, if you've had other things, you just haven't tested in a while, this is a great refresher. But if you need a little more personalized help, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always willing to help you guys with anything that you might need. As I mentioned earlier, be sure to head to the website, to social media. We are having an educational webinar on Thursday as well, talking to respiratory therapists all over the country, just talking about how early access PFTs have impacted their practice and their patient care. If you know an RT, go give them a big hug. Happy Respiratory Care Week. Thank you guys for attending. Next month, we're going to be back over working through the Easy One Air device. And then in December, doing a little bit more of a specific DLCO training on the Easy One Pro. So keep an eye on our website, guys. There's so much stuff happening, lots of good things going on. And we hope to see you Thursday. And thank you guys so much for attending. All right, have a good day.